I stand for joy and for release, for what is beautiful and true. I stand for hope, I stand for hope, I stand for peace, I stand for joy and for relief. What is beautiful and true? I stand for hope. I stand is in great pain. She needs our love and care. There are those who fail to see, have done every act, and now there is no turning back. We burn a bridge, we break a drum. It's time to rise. Time has come to stand for joy and for release. What is beautiful and true? Stand for you. If you're thinking it's not urgent, that we've got more time to give. If I'm not the one who'll change things, then for heaven's sake, who will? So I will move, and I will climb that mountain one step at a time. Won't be swayed, I will not stop. Where we will stand for love and peace, we'll stand for joy and for relief. What is beautiful and true, we'll stand for hope, we'll stand for you. For what is beautiful and true, I stand for hope, I stand for you.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you, Nick, for singing us in. Welcome to our Sunday service. I'm Reverend G, and I love it that you chose to spend this beautiful, crisp morning with us. I was a little bit colder than I prefer to be, and it appears that summer is over, but such is life. The seasons move on, and so must we. So welcome to the virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. Our physical building is located on Shaver Road, and we hope to come back to it sometime as it is possible and safe. And every morning, every Sunday morning, and not just us, but all Unitarian Universalists around this country, engage in lighting the chalice which is the symbol of our faith. And it symbolizes our truth-seeking nature. We don't have dogmas. We only have a few principles that we have found to be true. And most of us adhere to them to the best of our abilities. And then when we fail them, we correct. So please join me as we light the chalice, and we invite Nancy and Joe to light it for us.
On this day, On this day around the world, Unitarian Universalists light the chalice. We are truth seekers. We seek a truth that is so strong it can withstand our questioning and our doubts. The flame reminds us of what we have in common here, and so we bring it to life. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Nancy, and thank you for filming this in our church in front of our stunning quilt. I've never seen one like it. It's just so stunning and beautiful. It was just good for my heart and soul to see it. So welcome all, in case you're just joining in right now. I'm Reverend G, minister at the Unitarian Universalist Community Church in Portage. And now I invite you to join us for a short time in meditation. This is just a time for centering, for bringing your attention into the here and now. So I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seat. Uncross your legs, uncross your arms, and close your eyes if it is yours to do. And take a deep breath. And as you exhale, just relax. Deep breath. And as you exhale, relax even more. Another deep breath. And as you exhale, relax completely. Allow your attention to focus on your breath as it travels through your body. Breathe in and breathe out. And in this moment, sit without expectations, without judgments, without attachments to outcome. Just sit at this as this piece of beingness that you are. Aware of the breath and nothing else. And in the present moment, we let go of past, we let go of future, and allow ourselves to just be and experience ourselves freely, without attachments. No thoughts, not even attachments to having no thoughts. Just being, kindly, gently, effortlessly. Joining this present moment, the only place where life is actualized, where life is, where peace is possible, where calm is possible, the home of wisdom, guidance, connection, and inclusivity. And so are we, and we are in gratitude that at any moment in time, we can break away from the craziness of life, the guilt of the past, the anxiety of the future, and anchor ourselves into this present moment, finding peace, harmony, and possibilities. And for that, together we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes and return your attention to the screen and to this upcoming talk. And in case you are joining in only now, I'm Reverend G, and I'm delighted that you chose to spend this time with us. Welcome to the virtual Sunday service of our Unitarian Universalist Community Church. Our physical building is located on Shaver Road in Portage. Once again, thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to spend this time with you this morning. There's no place I'd rather be. If you have been following us, you know that for this church year, we chose the overarching topic of revolution, and each month we assigned a sub-theme that taps into this overarching theme of revolution. And this month is resilience. And last week we talked about inspiration, and which is very important to be resilient. And this week, today, just about now, I'm going to talk about courage. And I'd like to preface also that I know myself as one without courage. That is the last thing that would come to mind about me. Not to say that I've never displayed courage, but it's not because I'm a courageous person. It's something else, usually, that caused me to make a stand or to choose a path that might be characterized as courage. We'll talk about that. So today, I am going to inspire from the Old Testament. It's that story of we know it as courage. We know it as the epitome of the underdog, the battle between Goliath and David. Most of us know that story. Nonetheless, I am going to tell it again. And we're going to take a look at it maybe from just a little bit of a different angle, and maybe it's an angle that you're quite familiar with, and this will be old news to you, but maybe we'll just dust it off for a little bit for you. So here goes the story. The Philistines were seafaring creatures, people, not creatures, people, and they came to the shores of Palestine from Crete on the Mediterranean. And there they set up camp on the shores of the Mediterranean. And they were arch enemies of the Israelites. And so their plan was that they would, up on the northern ridge, a little bit further in from the coast, where are all the major cities located, such as Jerusalem, Bethlehem, the important cities. So the Philistines obviously wanted to conquer those cities. The only problem was that between this northern ridge, where all these inland, where these significant cities were, was this area called the Shephelah, which is between the coast and these northern ridges. And the Shephelah is a beautiful place. It's full of these valleys that all line up, and they had to cross these valleys and come up on the other side and then attack and overtake Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and these important cities. And that was a very risky undertaking because King Saul learned about the intentions of the Philistines, and he summoned his troops and he sent them into the Shephelah. And so now imagine that there's this valley, the valley of Elah, and then on the coastal side, on top of the ridge, the southern ridge, are the Philistines, and on the top of the northern ridge are the Israelites lined up, their troops. And so for them to come into an armed conflict, either troop had to descend into the valley and then come up on the ridge on the other side, and they would have been 100% exposed to the other army. So neither of these armies wanted to stomach and to risk the loss of life that would certainly have meant if they would have engaged in that maneuver. So they were at an impasse. On the top of each ridge, on the one are the Palestinians, on the other one are the Israelites, and nobody's making a move. And they are there for weeks. So finally, the Palestinians decide to send forth their most fierce warrior, whose name was Goliath. And he was very tall. Supposedly he was 6'9" or 6'11", so very, very tall. He was head and shoulders above any Philistine or Israelite. He was humongous. His outfit was made of bronze. His it's not clothing, but it's called like shield. So that was made of bronze. Supposedly it weighed about 100 pounds. And then he had a shield, and he had a sword and a spear and a javelin. And he was a fierce soldier. So he would descend into the valley alone, actually with a guide. There would be supposedly maybe a young boy who would lead him and carry his shield. He would descend into the valley, and there he challenged the Israelites and said, okay, send your warrior to me. We will engage in a fight. And if I win, then you guys will be slave to us. That'll settle the war. If you win, that'll settle the war, and we will be slaves to you. The Philistines will be slaves to you. But the Israelites looked at this giant of a man, and they didn't dare engage him. So Goliath came down day after day into this valley with his guide. And then the name calling would begin. He would say all kinds of humiliating things about the Israelites, call them derogatory names. It was very humiliating an experience, and yet there was nobody willing to engage this giant. So the impasse remained. And it so happened that one day this little shepherd boy came and brought food to his older brothers who were in the army of King Saul. And just when he arrived, it so happened that Goliath descended with his guide, and the name calling began. And David said, what is this? What is happening here? And they said, well, I mean, nobody dares to fight. Did you see him? Do you see him? He's a giant. Whoever goes down there to fight him, it's probably sure death. And nobody really wants that. So we're at this impasse. And David said, no, that can't be. We can't have somebody just humiliate us like this. How can you allow that? This is terrible for the Israelites. How dare anybody talk like that? I am going to fight him. I will do it. So they bring him to King Saul, and King Saul says, like, no, you can't. Look at you. You're a child. You're just a little boy. The reason you're not even in the army because you're a little boy. You're young. And David says, but I fight lions. When they go and they grab my sheep, I fight them and I get my sheep back from the lions. I can fight this guy. I can make it happen. And Saul says, this is crazy, and it's our only choice. I mean, no one else has stepped forth. So he says, okay, I guess go, but at least let me give you my own outfit, you know, these metal shields and plates that warriors wore in the day to protect them from the sword. And so he's starting to put this outfit on David, and he says, I can't walk in these. I'm not used to this. I can't. No, I'm not going to wear this. I'm just going to go as I am. This is how I fight lions. This is how I'm going to fight Goliath. Now, this is what Goliath says. Come to me. Let's fight. And then that will determine the fate of this conflict. So there's an expectation in Goliath's mind. His expectation is that there will be a one-on-one struggle, and he expects to come out on top. And he is armored from head to toe. Well, almost completely from head to toe. So he's very well protected, and also he is skillful, a warrior. David, on the other hand, is not a skillful warrior. He's not even a soldier. He's had no training. The only training he has is that of being a shepherd and protecting his sheep from lions and whatever wild predators were in that area. So King Saul says, okay, if you're not going to wear this outfit, then just go without, which is, again, just super risky. It is risky because if David loses, which is quite likely, then it settles the fate of this conflict. It means Bethlehem is gone. It means that the Israelites become slaves to the Philistines. So the stakes are very, very high. But there seems to be no other option. No one else is willing to step forth but this one boy, this shepherd boy. No armor, and as far as they know, no real skills as warriors would have. So David takes off, and he picks up 5 smooth stones, as the story goes, and puts them in his shepherd bag. So he has his shepherd's pouch, he has a sling, and a staff. And he takes off, walks down into the valley where Goliath already is. And then when he's fairly close to Goliath, Goliath calls out and says, "What, am I, a dog, that you would come to me with sticks?" And David takes a stone out of his pouch, places it into his sling. So the sling is a leather pouch with 2 long strings, probably leather, I'm assuming. So what the slinger would do, they would start rotating the sling and then let go of one of the strings, and that would release the stone or the lead bullet, whatever they would have in this pouch. And then that would hit the target. And that's what David does. He comes running towards Goliath, but he never has the intention of engaging in a one-on-one fight with Goliath. Instead, he uses his sling. And Goliath stands there, and David is so fast and so accurate with his sling that the stone hits Goliath between his eyes, about the only place that was vulnerable and exposed from all his armored outfit. And it causes him to fall forward. And he's either dead or unconscious, we don't know, nor will we ever find out, because David runs up to him, takes his own sword, Goliath's sword, and he chops Goliath's head off. So with that, it's all settled. And when the Philistines see this, they just go running back to the coast where they came from. And the conflict is settled. Interesting story. It is known to us as the story of the underdog. It is known to us as the impossible fight, and that it so happens that miracle happened and the underdog won, and this impossible fight, probably because God was on the side of David, became possible. But is that really true? Is that really how it happened? So there are two things that I would like to explore here, and one of them is that when we make up in our minds that something is insurmountable, giant, then we also create an impasse within us. It's like we can't take it. We can't make it happen, so we won't even challenge it. So the giant may be more vulnerable than we think, or not as giant of a giant, or not as powerful of a giant, not as invincible of a giant as we think they are, and that the underdog is not without power, resources, and possibilities. In other words, the one that may look disadvantaged by size, by age, by gender, by color of skin, is not entirely powerless or without possibilities. What it requires, though, for these two to come together in a way that the balance of power can be offset, is a different engagement than what the powerful suggests. It requires a thinking outside the box. If you are to engage the giant on the giant's terms, chances are you will lose. If you decide not to follow the rules set by the giant, it turns out that there's a 68% chance for the underdog to win. So, there are these scientists who study all sorts of situations. So they have studied warfare between countries that are huge, with large armies, powerful armies, resourceful, who would engage smaller countries with much smaller armies, less resources. And if they engaged in warfare the way the larger country engaged it, then even then, the smaller country would win about 22% of the times. So even then, it's not entirely hopeless. But if the smaller country or the smaller army would decide to engage in a warfare that is unconventional, that is not on the terms of what the larger army is prepared to fight, then their chances increase to like 68%, possibly even a little bit higher. So that's remarkable if you think about it. So it means that the giant is not as invulnerable, as invincible as they might like to appear, or might like the smaller ones to believe, and that the underdog is not as resourceless, or it's not as hopeless as they might also think it. But if you think it that it's hopeless, it is hopeless. So there's that. There are some speculations, that there's medical, the medical scientists also looked at the story, And they believe that Goliath had a special condition where a tumor, a benign tumor, was pushing on his pituitary gland, and that caused his huge size. So it's the growth gland, and so it caused him to keep growing. In fact, the tallest person who died at age 26 had also this condition, and at the time of his death was 8 feet 11 inches, and supposedly he was still growing. And they believe that Goliath had the same condition. And another side effect of this, when this tumor is big enough, then it starts pushing on the vision or nerves, and it causes tremendous short-sightedness and or double vision, which also explains why Goliath moved so slowly and needed a guide to lead him down into the valley. And then also, he doesn't really see David. And when David approaches, he says, "What, you think I'm a dog and you come at me with sticks?" When David just had one staff, one stick. So the medical opinion is that he probably had this condition. So the cause of his strength, at the cause of his greatness, was also the cause of his fall, because he could not very well assess the danger that David represented to him. And also, those who study warfare and warfare of ancient times will tell you that slingers were extremely accurate with their shots. They were part of every army. So there was artillery, there was the one-on-one combat people, and there were the slingers. And it was believed that most often the slingers were the ones who won the war. They could actually hit a bird in flight. They were that accurate. And the stones in the Valley of Elah are some special stones that they're denser than just regular stones. So it is believed that really when that stone hit him in the forehead, it hit him with the power of a 45 caliber handgun, which of course can kill a people, has killed many. So you see, it required on David's part outside of the box thinking, and Goliath, on the other hand, had expectations that somebody would come and they would engage in one-on-one fight, and he then would be able to overwhelm that one person. So he wasn't as quick on his feet, and because of his absolute strength, he thought himself to be a lot more invincible than he actually was. So today we are engaged in a struggle. Of course, the struggle has been going on for a long, long time. And I am speaking of this ugly racism. And we are in a struggle, not just racism, sexism, you know, everything is coming to head right now. And it seems that the powers to be have always been able to manipulate or fight or put their weight into it, and then things would go back to business as usual. Maybe small little progress would be made, but nothing really truly significant. And it is my hope that this time it is different. And I think that it requires on our part to think outside the box, that we cannot engage the powers to be on the terms that they wish to be engaged. Because if that happens, then my prediction is that there will be a committee that will have to do a study, and things will just, that's where things go to die. So we cannot do that again. We have to be resourceful, think outside the box, and understand that we are not nearly as powerless or resourceless as the powers to be would like us to believe, and that the powers to be are not nearly as invulnerable as they also would like us to believe. So, it is my hope and wish that at this critical time in history, and I really hope that history will remember us as the ones who succeeded in defeating Goliath, the Goliath of our days. That history will remember us as the ones who have found a way to cause systemic change, to heal and overcome systemic racism, systemic sexism, isms, these isms that are truly killing us. I hope that we find the resilience, we find the means to think outside the box and keep the heat on the powers to be, and engage them in ways that they don't foresee, that throws them off balance and causes for the balance of power to tip. And that will take all of us. That takes that courage. And I have mentioned it to you that I don't think of myself as a courageous person. In fact, that's probably one of the last things that would come to my mind about myself. Not to say that I've never displayed courage, but I didn't do it because I'm a courageous person. When I did it, or whenever I do it, is because I can't bear it anymore. It's because I couldn't carry it in my soul if I didn't take that step. If I didn't make that decision, I could no longer live with myself. So scared as I am, I'll take that step. I've done that a few times in my life. And it's almost like I had no choice. But it wasn't because I'm a courageous person. It's just because I couldn't bear it otherwise. You know, this last time when I went downtown and I knew the Proud Boys were coming, I was absolutely scared. I didn't want to do it. I was scared. I don't like to be beaten up. I can't imagine getting mazed, which none of those happened. But there was the potential for that to happen. And I went anyway because I couldn't have done otherwise. I just couldn't have stayed home. So may we find our breaking point. Just like David was absolutely overtaken and couldn't bear the Philistines humiliating day after day the Israelites. Goliath was down there just throwing all kinds of nasty words, you may call it tweets, at the Israelites. And he just said, enough. Like, no, we can't do this. We've got to do something. We can't let this going on any longer. Enough is enough. And I do hope that we also have reached this enough is enough breaking point in our lives. So, have you registered to vote? And if you haven't, will you please do so? And will you please ask your neighbor and your sons and your daughters and your nephews, have they registered to vote? And if they haven't, will you help them? Will you help them, walk them, take them by the hand? This is how you do it. Please, enough is enough. Here's to David. And so it is. So thank you again for joining us. And although our church now is all online and we don't gather at our church building, still our expenses are the same. So we thank you for supporting our spiritual community. Thank you for being generous with your resources, so we may have a voice, so we may have a life, and so we may contribute and bring about the healing in society that we so sorely need. So I invite you to choose the offering of your heart and bless it good and send it forth. You can donate online. You can send a check to the church. And thank you for supporting us. And Nick, take it away.
Am I nervous? Of course I am. You don't even have to ask. Chasing a mystery anyone would be. One more step and it's out of my hands. There can be no turning back. Can't say what's in front of me. You know I can't wait to see. This is something I owe to myself. This is something I just gotta do. I don't know what I'll find, but there's one thing I know about my life. It's gotta be, yeah, it's gotta be true. I remember, of course I do, how I used to hear my heart, what I most wanna be, what I long to see, but that voice is faded so far away. I hardly recognize myself. What happened to me? No wonder I couldn't breathe. This is something I owe to myself. This is something I just gotta do. I don't know what I'll find, but there's one thing I know about my life. It's gotta be, yeah, it's gotta be true. It's been a lifelong habit, gave away my power, play and follow the leader again and again. But my soul won't have it, I won't die a coward. I'm ready to dive back in. This is something I owe to myself. This is something I just gotta do. I don't care what I find, but there's one thing I know about my life. It's gotta be, yeah, it's gotta be true. It's just gotta be true. It's gotta be true.
Thank you, Nick. You always pick just the right song. I thank you for that. And I also thank you, Pat and Miriam and Steve, for making this live stream a possibility. It takes quite a bit to bring church to you, even online. And without these people, it would be absolutely impossible. And they make it seem easy, seamless, and kind and gentle. And believe me, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm grateful for every single one of you. And now I'm going to ask Joe and Nancy again to please extinguish the chalice.
As we extinguish the chalice, let us remember to keep the flame awake and alive in our souls, and let the light of the chalice bind us together, showing us a way.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
That was just wonderful. Thank you. After we stop the live streaming on Facebook, I invite those of you who are on Zoom with us to please stay, and we will share joys and concerns. So, you have so much potential. You're filled with resources. Your possibilities are endless. Tap into your greatness. Let your light shine and be an agent of positive change. And so it is. Thank you for joining us, and have a blessed day.